Hello. So the version of Google Analytics that you're probably using right now will be shut down as of July 2023. So we've got plenty of time, but it is time to start putting your upgrade plans in place, especially for those of you who maybe aren't in control, direct control of your website. You have somebody else taking care of it for you, or you're using a service. So we're going to talk about what this all means, where you can go for information, and a little bit about what the process is going to be like. Ready? Let's get started. Hello, how is everybody doing? Hope you're having a good week. So this is a preparatory kind of show because this is something that's going to hit a lot of people, and it's not a big deal, right? It's really just a matter of upgrading. There's no additional costs or anything other than if you're using somebody to maintain your website or your application or whatever. But it's the next evolution. But it's time to start planning. So what am I talking about? As of July 2023, October for some people, we'll get into that, 2023 also, the Google Analytics that you're probably using right now for your website, your applications, all that kind of stuff will be depreciated. So they're going to turn it off and it will stop collecting information. And at some point, you may lose access to that information. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But all you need to do to avoid any problems is upgrade to the next version of Google Analytics. So what we've got now is generally referred to as Universal Analytics, which is actually was an update to previous versions that they'd had out there. But those were less manually intensive updates. And this is not massively manually intensive, but there are steps you need to take physically in order to make things all work. So what you've got probably now is Universal Analytics. And the new one that they're using is called now Google Analytics 4. So at least they made the names different enough so that there's not going to be a lot of confusion around this. But it is the kind of thing that, they've been telling us this is coming. Now, they're starting to put the information out there. So I want to share with you, and all the links are in the description. But I just kind of want to share with you where to go to get up to speed about this and what you might want to start thinking about as far as what your plan's going to be and how you're going to make the right adjustments for this. And also how you can verify what version you're on in case you're not sure. So, what they're telling us at this point is, as of July 1st, 2023, the existing Universal Analytics from Google will cease to track any new activity, right? And then if you are on the enterprise version, which is referred to as Universal Analytics 360 or Google Analytics 360, that date is going to be October 1st of that year. So whether you're enterprise level or you're just a regular schmo like me using the regular product, this is going to affect everybody. And you do want to take care of this. Now, of course, the big question is why, right? Why are they doing this? Why are they making me do this? There is a bunch of different reasons for this. The marketing point of this is that this is, something good for businesses and their customers because it's going to give them the information about traffic on their website while preserving user privacy. So right now, depending on how you've got it set up, you can actually know a lot about individuals who are visiting your site or using your app. But with the whole GDPR thing and all the other privacy stuff that has come up, which is a good thing, over the past few years, it's becoming more and more of an issue. So things like Google Analytics, the Facebook Pixel thing, all these things started to not be as reliable. The information you were getting was not as reliable because they were having to turn things off. So this is Google's new solution to give you the information you need to make smart decisions while still respecting your customers' privacy, your audience's privacy. So that's all good. The under discussion for that is the fact that they're also doing this to cover their own ass, let's be honest, right? Because they're always under scrutiny. And so by doing the level of collection that they've been doing, they're leaving themselves open to issues that they don't want to deal with. So they're going to step this up and move it on out and make it all work better. So, like I said, there's layers to any onion, and this is no different. So how do you know if this is the case for you, right? How do you know whether or not this is going to impact you? General rule of thumb is if your app or website or whatever it is that you're using Google Analytics in was created October 2020 or earlier, the odds are really high that you're using the existing Universal Analytics. While anything from that point forward, so anything from November 2020 to now, is most likely using the new version, the Google Analytics 4. Another way you can tell is to go and look at your code. So if your analytics code starts with UA, then it's Universal Analytics, and so you're going to need to make these changes. Okay. Trying to decide which way to go here. You know what? Let's do this first. Before we go any farther, I do want to remind you that if you are creating content of any kind and you hit that blank page problem, right? That metaphorical wall that you can't get past, the mental block, go help yourself out, right? So yourtechcoach.net/content ideas is a free PDF that I created. It's got 130 content ideas, and they are not tech specific. That question comes up a lot. They're just generic topics that will make life easier for you in those moments where you're like, I want to post, I need to post, I don't know what to post. Because literally all I do, I have a printout and I shuffle the pages and I lay them out and I close my eyes and I pick one and that becomes the topic. Like I don't even think about it. Like whatever that is, that's my topic and that's what I do something for. So make your life easier. There's no cost. There's nothing. I did this for me. It helped some friends. So now I'm making it available to everybody. So go ahead and reach out. And it's just yourtechcoach.net/content ideas. Anything I can do to reduce any stress, I try to help out. Okay. So back to our topic. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the documents so that you are sort of oriented to what's going on here. Okay. So like I said, all of the links are in the description. You're going to want to take the time to go through and read these. You don't have to understand every single thing that they're talking about. You just need to understand the general, especially if you have someone who's taking care of your website and your applications for you. But you do want to understand it. Realistically, I would say, expect to spend like 15, 20 minutes reading this stuff and you'll understand what's going on. I'm just going to run through it really high. So this first page is just their Universal Analytics is going away. And here's some stuff to know. And there's a lot of links in here that lead to additional information, but it does break out what's happening, when it's happening, and what your next steps should be. So this is sort of like your starting point. As you can see over here on the right side, they've got other stuff. So you can go ahead and, dig as deep as you'd like, but at least start here. Then there is an explanation page about what the new one is, what you're going to get from it, what's going to be different in it. And this is the other important part is the next steps, right? So what do you need to do? And basically what you need to do is you need to just update the code block that is in your websites and your applications. The good news is for most people, that's like one location, right? Usually people put it in the header or the footer and it's a repeating thing. So it's not like, if you have a 500 page website, you have to do it on 500 pages. Now, depending on who set it up and how it's set up, that could be the case. But in most cases, you're going to go in one place and you're going to just swap out a block of code and you'll be good to go. And the other thing, which is super important, I should have probably mentioned this earlier, is while this is not going to take effect until July of 2023, you can make the changes now and don't have to worry about it anymore, right? That's what I'm going to do. My plan is to go through my sites over the next couple of weeks or months and go in and make these replacements. And that way it's one less thing to worry about because who knows what else I'll be dealing with come next summer. So I'm going to just take care of it and get it out of the way. I highly recommend you do that if you can. But like I said, if you are in a situation where you hired somebody to build your site and you need to go and work with that person and work out a plan for this, that's a conversation you want to have now because those people are going to be very, very busy. So you want to make sure you get into their schedule and you come up with a plan and that you make sure this happens in advance because the last minute scramble is not any fun for anybody. I'm just saying. Okay. Here, we'll do this way. Okay, so you're going to want to do that. There is, for those of you who might be interested in all of the details, why is this not... I must have rearranged this for a different presentation, and now things are a little off. So just give me half a second here, because this is bothering me now, and I have to change it. Sorry, ADD, ADHD, the struggle is real. Okay. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Yeah, like that. Okay. There we go. See? vMix, I love it. You can do things on the fly. I can even save it on the fly, and we don't lose our connection. Okay, so if you are interested in learning more about this, if you are one of my fellow people who maintain websites for other people, there is, of course, a ton of free training from Google. So again, these links are all there. This link is actually, it came from the main page. So you can go ahead and find it on that one. But they've got resources and workshops, and there's lots of information out there on this one. Unlike some other conversations we've had recently, this is a situation where there is a plethora of information, and you can go as deep as you want, but you don't have to go terribly deep. But this is here, so make use of it if you're interested. There's also, again, in the links, I linked you to this because I thought this was a good overview of what's going on and how they're tracking things. So basically what they're trying to do is just resolve this. Everybody wants their personal information protected, but we all need metrics in order to serve our audience, right? Or to know what's working and what's not working. So that's what this is getting into. So if you're, ROI is important for everybody who's doing anything like this. The search engine optimization element is a part of this. So there's a lot going on. And this did a really nice job of explaining it on a reasonable level, right? I mean, you don't have to be a super geek techie in order to understand what they're talking about, but they are talking about how, Google Analytics has, evolved over time and what's happening in this latest iteration. This, however, is the important piece. Okay. So this is how you're going to make your switch, right? So, as you said, they're even like, what level of effort is involved. Like they've broken it out into steps. But basically what you're going to do is go into your Google Analytics admin profile. And there's actually a link right there. And you're just going to go in and you're going to make some setting changes. And then that's going to give you that new block of code that you're going to use in the website. So the migration and all that kind of stuff is here. This is a really nice overview and we'll walk you through everything. One thing that I want to specifically point out to everybody, because it is mentioned in these documents, but I think I would have personally given it a little more weight. And I understand their focus is very much on here's what's happening. You need to be aware of this and you need to make changes. And that's right. But there's a little bit more to it. And that is at some point after this, transition happens, after they turn off the existing Google Analytics and you're only getting your data from the new one, they're going to stop making that old data available. So you're going to want to go in and you're going to want to download copies of all of your data. And I'll do a whole other show on this, but you're going to want to archive that data so that you have it going forward so that you can compare, because the whole thing with analytics is, yes, point in time is important, but you also need to go back usually to previous points in time so you can compare, are we doing better or worse from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. And that means you're going to need that information. Now, the date for when that will happen has not been specified. I've seen references to 6 months after the turnoff. I've seen references that say, we don't know when that's going to happen. So I would just build that into your plan right now. First step is get yourself set up on Google Analytics 4. Once that's going and you're verify that the data is coming in and you're seeing the activity and you're sure that's good, then take a breath and then go and make sure that you archive all of your existing data so that you don't lose it. So quick little story. Not going to mention any names, of course, but a company that I'm familiar with has been using Google Analytics to track activity on their sites that they provide and their services that they provide for clients. Somebody misinterpreted something, got hysterical, and went in and deleted the Google Analytics account without talking to anybody first. Yeah, see, I was really happy because a big part of my job is tracking that information. And so when I went in to do my, usual tracking for the month, and everything was gone, that was a problem because you know what? Once the data's gone, it's gone. So they lost about 8-9 years of useful data. This is why we're having this conversation. I do not want that to happen to you. Yes, I'm carrying a bit of a grudge about this, but you know what? You can't unring the bell. All that data is gone. I have a few reports from previous, but I hadn't gotten around to archiving everything because I was not we had other things going on and I didn't have the time to do that yet. So yes, do, for your own sake, even if you think you're not going to need it, archive the data anyway, because this is one of those situations where it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, which is now coming up every couple of weeks in meetings. But anyway, I digress. Or if you're a fan of a certain person on TikTok, I digress. Okay, so here we go. Let's just, now my brain is like, yes, and no, we're not going to yes, end this. Okay, so that's basically going to be the process. The important things, consider the account structure. This is a good time to look at how your Google Analytics is structured, because since you're going to be switching it over anyway, it's a good time if you want to make changes to go ahead and do that. But this is really the first step for everybody, even if you're not going to make changes to your account, is you got to go in and you got to create a Google for Analytics property, which basically is just creating a new section in your Google Analytics admin that is specifically a Google Analytics 4 setup. And then you're going to want to turn it on. You're going to want to activate the signals, is what they're calling it, as far as the information that's going back and forth. And it will walk you through all this. If you are using Google Ads, make sure you follow this step, because this step is very important if you are using Google Ads, because that is another thing that is impacted by this. So make sure you take that into consideration. And then, then you're going to need to go and make changes in your website, your app, your Google Ads, all that kind of stuff. And then you're just going to want to go through and validate it, make sure it's working, get everything working in place, make any tweaks you need to do, and then go ahead and do your archive. That's the piece I would have added. I would have added archiving. For me, there's a 13th step, but that's me. So if you're not sure what you or your clients are using, or the business you're working for, this piece here walks you through specifically how to go find out. Now, I mentioned early on a couple of things that will indicate to you what you're currently on, but this is the way to be absolutely sure which one. If somebody tells you, okay, so if the person who's taking care of your website or the place you're working for tells you that, oh, it's good, we're all taken care of, trust but validate, right? So go and make sure and check all these things to make sure that it is actually there, that you're actually set up for the new one, and that you're actively collecting information. Now, that's going to take, 24, 48, 72 hours to kick in. So don't panic. The first second they tell you it's done, give it a little time and then go in and check. And then if you're not seeing anything, make sure you go back to them and say, hey, or if you've done it yourself and it's not working, go back and repeat all the steps very carefully and slowly to make sure that you're getting it. All right. John, I don't know what you're talking about. I was hoping it wasn't just me. I'm sorry. Right over my head. No idea. Okay, so you can elaborate if you'd like to, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was up to speed on that. Like I said, all of the links are in the description, so you can go in and you can click on those. And I'll probably do a follow-up after I make my transition in case I pick up any tips along the way. But basically, this is what we're talking about. Hang on. Okay, so just some general notes, and this may be for the more geeky among us, but so G4 works across platforms, and it can track across websites and applications, which pretty much the existing Google Analytics can do. What's different is it doesn't require cookies, and it's based more about events that take place than tracking who it is that's coming in and doing things. Let's see. So it's also tracking more than just the last click, right? So it's actually following more of the conversation. So basically, when you see this kind of stuff, what they're talking about really is generally there's a flow for how your customers, how your audience is finding your products, your content, that type of thing. So maybe, you did an ad, right? You did a Google ad, or you did, a post someplace or whatever. And then that led them to, checking this out, which led them to your website, which led them to maybe your e-commerce store, or, your, apply for services page, or your contact us page. And the challenge has always been linking those together. You could kind of sort of maybe figure it out sometimes. You could definitely guess, but what that's worth. So what they're saying, and I haven't seen this yet, but what we're expecting from this new version is that type of linking, that kind of chain of events of, hey, this Google ad led them to this and they completed a checkout, or, it didn't, is supposed to be more evident. So for a lot of my customers, that's a big thing. And so I'm really excited, and I'm hoping that's going to help. For me, who just likes data, it's just interesting. And I want to see, how people got from wherever they originally found, something that made them curious, to my website, or, my videos, or whatever it is. Oh, okay. Now I understand. Oh yeah. Well, I know that you're on the same page with me with that, right? It bothers me when things are not lined up right. I can't help it. It's just the way I am. So yeah, I get that totally. So yes, so that is definitely one of the things that we are expecting to see as a benefit of this, which is good. And then the fact that it's not going to maintain IP addresses, right? Which is usually the unique identifier for a customer. So you'll automatically be in compliance with more privacy laws because of that. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to do your due diligence on other things, but this is just one more thing that's going to help you stay in compliance so that you're not running into problems, because nobody needs those problems. Okay, so that's what I have for you. Like I said, it is not a forest fire. You do not need to drop everything and do this now, but you also don't have to wait. There's no harm, or there's no harm to doing it early. There's no benefit to waiting to the end, unless that just fits better into your schedule. But do come up with a plan, figure out what you're going to do, figure out your archive plan, and then start rolling forward, because you may realize as you start to have these conversations with your team, or you start looking into it yourself, that this has spread farther than you might have thought of at first, right? So like the Google Ads thing in particular, I think is going to trip up some people. So get it started, start getting familiar, go read the stuff, and just go ahead and get ready for it. I mean, I would say just go ahead and dive in, because the sooner you start getting the new information, the better, right? All right, everybody. My name is Kathleen, by the way. I keep forgetting to introduce myself. Hi. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kathleen. I'm here as your tech coach. Short version is technology is my day gig. It's also my hobby. It's also all of my side gigs. So I live in this world, and the purpose of these shows is the fact that not everybody has a techie they can turn to for information. And most of you don't have the time in your life, because you're running a business, you have a life, to stay up with all this kind of stuff. I automatically stay up with it because it is my life. So I try to make this stuff available to you. I try to highlight the stuff that is important, and hopefully that way help you. If you ever have a question, if you have an idea for a show, if you have something you want me to cover, go to yourtechcoach.net. There's a contact form there. Let me know what you're thinking. If you do need help and you need it fast, please give me an email address so I can respond to you. Otherwise, it'll become a future topic for a show, which is also awesome. So that's what I have for you. Go do the thing. It's going to happen. We have over a year, so don't panic, but go ahead and jump in and get that done. All right. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye.